And we'll just wait. It says live, so we'll just wait a few seconds for the lag to kick in. Okay. Oh. Our host has left the building for a second. Okay, Julia, you're set to go.
All right, sorry, I needed a napkin. I'll put this aside. No more eating. Okay. Sorry. Okay, welcome again to tonight's meeting of the Sustainable Advisory Group. We had one yesterday. What we're doing in these meetings this week is we are reviewing the presentation that we'll be giving to the Town Council later this week. Today is we had two different options for who could attend. So today we have a couple of guests with us joining. We might have other people pop in. It just depends on availability of time. Okay, so Catherine, let's sort of time ourselves at 6:10 right now, and let's get going. So anyway,
yeah. Can I just a couple of points before we start?
Sure.
This is a version, a new draft since yesterday's. It incorporates some feedback we had in yesterday's meeting, as well as some comments that have come in by email, and also comments from our new acting town manager, who Rick Ledworth, who I met with today. And it's not that different from the version last night. We did rejigger some of the language to make it a little more positive. So I hope that comes through in the presentation.
Yeah. Okay, so welcome to the presentation tonight. We're very pleased to be here representing the Sustainable Advisory Group. My name is Julia Farber, and I'm a sustainability expert. I've been in the field about 15 years, and I have been part of the Sustainable Advisory Group since the very beginning. And I'm here with Catherine Deviney today from the town, and we'll be presenting to you our initial findings from the last 10 months of the work that we're doing. I'm realizing that I control the slides, so hold on. So just a quick background, the Sustainable Advisory Group, just to remind you, this was actually a resolution of the town from last February with two major goals. The first was to help complete the application for Sustainable CT. And the second was, while we were going through that process, to start putting together a list of recommendations and strategies for West Hartford to adopt to continue along its own sustainability journey. And it was a diverse poll from across the town. So you had a really good cross section with 60 people applied and about 30 were selected, plus 2 students. So over the last 9-10-ish months, what have we really done? Well, we've had a couple of meetings. First couple of meetings were really focused on our getting everybody calibrated and learning about what the town had already done, which has been a lot of stuff, right, in order to prepare our application for Sustainable CT, which went in August. From there, we also developed a visioning exercise, meaning we were trying to figure out what we wanted to see the town do, plus did a gap analysis of what the town had done through the Sustainable CT program. In November, we found out that we were awarded silver, which as of today is the highest award you can get. There's no gold, not yet. And we've continued our work over the last few months to summarize and create a large list, as you'll see at the end, of ideas that we have for what the town can adopt in order to continue on its sustainability journey. So you're here at presentation to PWFNS today. So just to get everybody on the same page, sustainability is this very broad umbrella concept. It means different things to different people, but fundamentally, those of us who work in the field, we all really ascribe to this core definition that came out through the UN Brundtland Commission in the 1980s, which is meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And the way that this is materialized has come through a variety of different frameworks, let's just put it. So some people will refer to this as the triple bottom line. This is people, planet, profit, social, economic, and environmental aspects. There's always there's a 3-leg stool. That's a 3-leg stool, social, economic, and environmental. And that sustainability is this nexus in the middle. So just wanted to throw it out there that that's kind of where we were working from. And then, of course, over time, many organizations have really tried to adapt this into what it could mean for their organization, how do you slice those three different areas? What does it really mean? What kind of guidance can be provided? And so in the state of Connecticut, we're very fortunate to have this fantastic program that's designed for municipalities that has 13 action categories and really guides each municipality in the state on what they need to do to become more sustainable within the state. This is a independent program that we applied for, not one that we've created. So these 13 action categories really guided a lot of the work that we were doing to try to do a cross-reference of what did the town commit to doing, plus what is being called for in sustainable CT versus what do the residents want. So that's what you have focused here. And then just to tell you what we're going to tell you, our top 3 takeaways here. We do have a lot of work that has yet to be done. And so the thing, if you leave here today knowing nothing else, these are the 3 things we want you to know. The first is that we have to keep our work going with sustainability with a sense of urgency. Sustainability is not going away. This is a topic that's very important to your residents. It's a reason people move to West Hartford, as well as a imperative that really needs to undergird the decisions that the town makes going forward. So we just want to keep reminding you that this is definitely going to be a hot topic. It's going to be important to how we make decisions for the town, and it's got to stay on the front burner for the town. The second is, as we were uncovering our work to try to figure out what we really wanted to see happen in the town and identify how conversation started turning into opening up a lot of the seams of how do we get something done. Well, we identified that we are going to need to formalize this advisory group and turn it into something that's has more longevity, and we were calling this a Sustainable West Hartford team. And this team would be dedicated to making sure that we continue to work on all the things that are in Sustainable CT. Right now, it doesn't really have a home, so it would have this permanent home. We will pitch to you in just a couple of slides what that would look like, but just wanted to share with you, we identified we need this team so that they can pick up the work that we've done, which we've started a really great list. It's a really solid place to get going, keep the ball moving, and really drive home where we need to go next. And what we also identified is that the town and the residents have a desire to work with one another. And so we need a lot more communication and collaboration efforts that focus on sustainability work. And we really need to be able to have greater access directly to town staff and to commissioners. We really think that the combination of staff, commissioners, and residents, you're going to get this incredible group of perspectives that are able to finally actualize a lot of the visions of the types of projects that are not only called out in Sustainable CT, but that we want to adopt in the town. And then finally, this work will not be successful without your support. So we need your leadership, and we really need you to make sure that it's clear that you stand with this type of work. You just renamed this commission, so I expect that you're one of us, right? You're excited about sustainability and bringing sustainability to the town, and we want to make sure that it is consistent in the messaging of what makes West Hartford great. And so we want to see more messaging from leadership. There's already been some, but we really would love to see more. So again, sustainability is not going away. We need the Sustainable West Hartford team to continue, and we want to work as residents with the town, and we need you as leaders to make sure it's top priority for the town, and we don't want that to be dismissed. So those are the three major items. So in the first section, I'm going to kick it over to Catherine, and she's going to elaborate on what this means exactly.
Okay, so Ed and Steve, I warn you, I'm not as practiced as Julia because I've been running around like a maniac trying to finish this and do a lot of other stuff, but I will practice by Thursday night. So I'm going to cover the first couple of foundational ideas. The first being that the Sustainable Advisory Group feels that we must push forward on sustainability with a sense of urgency. Just to give you an example, on Monday, the UN delivered a dire warning about the impacts of climate change on the people and this planet. So that was another warning that's been issued just recently. Next slide. Julia. So this is a very busy slide, but its purpose is just to show you graphically some of the commitments that the town itself has made around the topics of sustainability. For example, the resolution declaring a climate crisis that was recently passed. We've also passed a resolution declaring racism as a public health crisis. There are also state level mandates, complete streets laws, and MS4 stormwater permit requirements that the town is subject to. So we just wanted to flash this up as a reminder that the town is committed to and does have some requirements in the form that as they relate to sustainability. Now, coming back to the Sustainable Connecticut program, we're lucky, as Julia said, to have this framework in our state that actually provides very actionable items for the towns to work on to achieve some of those commitments and goals that were on the previous slide. Now, West Hartford, as you know, we've made a lot of progress on this front already. We've done a lot of good work under your leadership. The West Hartford is already silver certified at the highest level under Sustainable Connecticut. But this slide shows you that there's much more we can do. When you look at the program as a whole, yes, we've done actions in 13 of the 13 categories in the program, but that's required by the program. And when you start to drill down to the actions and even the sub-action level and the points available within this broad program, West Hartford's application this year earned 725 points, but there are over 2,500 points in the program. So we've done less than a third of what's available to do. Next slide. And you might ask yourselves, of course, how West Hartford compares to other towns. Well, you know, like I said, we have made a lot of progress and we are a top performer in the Sustainable Connecticut program. But the nice thing about this program is it provides a very easy way to move forward. The program's very transparent, so you can look at actions, you can look at what other towns are doing. And as this slide shows you, for example, Greenwich has earned the most points out of any town in the program. And, you know, specifically, they've earned points for education and outreach in areas that West Hartford hasn't been focusing on. Areas where we've earned 0 points in watershed protection education, water conservation, invasive species management, and public transit. New Milford's application earned more points this year than ours as well, including points for a sustainable purchasing policy and an affordable housing plan that West Hartford doesn't have yet. But these are all things that we might achieve in the future. And what's nice about the Sustainable Connecticut program is it makes it really easy with technical assistance, with collaboration with other towns, with a transparent platform where you can look at other towns' actions to get where you want to go. Next slide. I guess I should probably say something. So I guess I should probably say something there about, so, you know, we can use this program to push forward. And I'll say something about the 2022 climate designation and the 23 gold application. I'll add that. So this slide, I'm not going to go into in great detail. This just gives you another peek at a gap analysis that the SAG, the Sustainable Advisory Group, discussed in the context of Sustainable Connecticut. It shows you where the different points, those 725 points were earned, and some strengths and weaknesses of West Hartford in those different categories. So moving on to the second foundational idea that the SAG wanted to share to you is that we need a sustainable West Hartford team, a structure that's going to provide a forum for communication and collaboration on future sustainability work. And the idea for this came out of some examples, for example, that you see at the bottom of your screen, the idea that the town's existing structures can sometimes act as a barrier. And residents voice feelings that they're not always adequately informed about the rules and processes for participating on commissions or providing public input. And that outside groups often have difficulty finding a point of contact for their projects or ideas. So we just wanted to share with you a recommendation that the group came up with. This is still in the conceptual stage, but the idea is to form more of a team. This would be a mixed group of leadership, staff, commission reps who are residents, and residents at large, including youth-aged residents. And it would only meet 4 times a year, which is pretty manageable. But the main idea is that there would be 2 sides to this group. As you can see on the left, a kind of community side, which would have a community resident chair and a lot of resident members, including youth. And on the right side, we've represented kind of the internal side of the Sustainable West Hartford group, which would have a municipal chair and be comprised of some department level staff. And so the idea for this group, Quebec, is that it would provide, as I said, a forum for communication and collaboration between members. And again, this is both staff and residents to communicate and collaborate on action items, gaps and opportunities for future work. We also think that this group might be able to track a couple of different metrics, not only our progress in Sustainable Connecticut certification, but in light of the recent climate crisis resolution that was passed, this might also be a home for a metric like a greenhouse gas inventory. Slide. So we don't want to get too into the weeds, but if you like the idea of the Sustainable West Hartford team, we've laid out maybe a few key steps to creating such a group. The first of it, which we thought would be to convene a joint meeting of some of the relevant commissions for this work, to discuss not only the concept of Sustainable West Hartford, but also introduce an idea that we're calling a commission kind of review or refresh, which we'll talk about in the next slide. We also thought, that's fine, we can move on. That's fine, we can move on. So we also wanted to throw out to you guys the idea of what we're calling a commission review or refresh. Now, I don't think this is a new concept to any of you on this committee or to the mayor or our acting town manager. And of course, these ideas would be discussed as a group, but here are some thoughts on how we might review and refresh some of our existing commissions. Conservation and Environment has not been revised by statute since 1972. The Clean Energy Commission, who I'm very intimately familiar with, is by resolution instead of by statute, and also has 2 staff members as commissioners, which we've been told is not really appropriate and should be corrected. But as we go through these, and finally, you know, we have some ideas about the Pedestrian Bicycle Commission, and then the Sustainability Advisory Group feels pretty strongly that we should create a new commission to focus on issues around waste reduction and materials management. And I know that idea also has some traction within the Public Works Department. I know John Phillips, who's here, the Director of Public Works, is also in favor of that, as is Catherine Bruns, our recycling coordinator. So, nope, go back. And just to close on this idea of the commission review and refresh, I think the idea is that going through an exercise like that might be an opportunity to make our commissions more effective and productive. So as and at the same time, we might want to rethink what it is we want commissions to do in this day and age. You know, are commissions advisory, or are they going to be doing more education and outreach and projects in the future? We have some other ideas here, which you can read through at your leisure. But I think our main idea is just like the Sustainable Advisory Group. There was so much interest in that idea. We had over 60 people apply to be on the SAG. And likewise, we feel that if a lot of our commissions have purpose and people feel like their participation is meaningful, they will volunteer to serve the town. Julia, back to you.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so just to reiterate, you know, we just laid out a couple of ideas for you, but we want to just remind you that none of this work is going to be successful if we can't get your continued and visible support of leadership on this topic. A couple of examples we pulled out here. We've won awards. You just renamed the name of this committee. We're really excited to be working with you. We think that this is the key to our future success. And we want to make sure that you're aware of just how important it is to the residents of this town. So we came up with 9 to-dos for you. The first is that the action item we have at the very beginning, let's push forward with sustainability with a sense of urgency. I know we're running out of time, so I'm going to kind of go through these a little faster. But number 2, we need to make sure we get that Sustainable West Hartford team. But what we would really like you to do is to help make sure that that is going to happen. So can you please put it to your committee agenda, check in on that, make sure it actually happens? Because without that, you know, the ideas that we have in the back of this presentation, nothing is going to come to fruition if there isn't a home for these particular topics and somebody isn't assigned responsibility. So please do that. Next week, we have an idea for you that you could convene a joint meeting of the commissioners to discuss that Sustainable West Hartford Commission refresh that Catherine just went through. The fourth one is kind of new. We want to make sure that sustainability is a key criteria used in the job description to recruit the new town manager, which is going to be a very key influential role. Again, very important player in making sure that we get sustainability incorporated into the town. So we will hope that you support that. Next, we want you to please continue your position of influence to continually talk about these issues. We would love for you to have press releases that have quotes that incorporate these concepts, have it built into your social media campaigns. Make sure this is a topic you discuss far and wide. This is something that really matters to West Hartford residents, and you're going to want to make sure that they're clear about where you stand on these topics when they know where the town stands, right? They could see the resolutions we've passed, and it would be really fantastic to be able to make this topic core to your leadership message. Catherine, over to you for the best.
So we recently passed a climate crisis resolution, and originally that was going to be one of the key recommendations of this committee. But thank you for doing that, because we're already one step down the road. But what we'd like to suggest at this point is perhaps we can circulate that adopted resolution to all department directors and staff. The idea being that sometimes there's a disconnect between what's done at the council level and the follow through at the department level. So when we've said it's a policy of the town to consider climate change in all decision making and future actions of the town, we'd like to make sure that people are aware of that commitment. Another to-do item, and I don't know whether you guys are going to continue to use the agenda item summary form that Matt Hart instituted that's used by council. But a suggestion is to add a couple of extra reviews to that form. I know it goes through a legal review, an operational review. The Sustainability Advisory Group would like to see some reviews that highlight equity issues as well as sustainability or climate change issues, so that they are front and center when the town council is reviewing something. Another easy to do is completing, there's a specific action in the Sustainable Connecticut program that requires one elected official to attend a 3-day Sustainable Connecticut equity training along with one resident and one director or manager level staff. So we would love for one of you to volunteer to do that. I'm sure we have a SAG member who would join you, and we could find a staff to attend as well. And I'm happy to provide more information on that one. And our final suggestion is to perhaps rename the Department of Public Relations. This group felt that that name is a little bit outdated and would like to see that department named something like the Office of Community Engagement and Equity. The idea being this would be a start to being more inclusive and reimagining communication as a two-way process and emphasizing its collaboration with the community.
And of course, you know, nobody really makes top 9 lists. So we did make a top 10, and number 10 is not really for you guys. This is something that we on the SAG have committed to do, which is that we are currently working on updating the sustainability section of the town's website. Our group was very excited about taking action and not just coming up with great ideas. And we were trying to think of things that were within our purview to get started on already. So we've already started this work with Catherine, and we're going to have a central trusted resource for the town with a very simple format talking about where you would go to get resources. So this builds on this idea that there was a desire to learn more about what the town was doing, to share more widely what the town has already done. A lot of residents don't even know, right? And so we wanted to both open the door so that people could see more about what the town has committed to and then what they've already achieved, and then also find a way to invite residents in. So that's a lot of the theme of what we're going here. And we wanted to make sure that this this was on your radar, that this is something we're doing right now. So then in addition, lest you think that we actually just came up with those ideas, we absolutely did not. As we've been referencing through this whole presentation, we've got an awful lot of ideas that we've brainstormed. We've cross-referenced them with what was important in sustainable CT. We've done an exercise to try to figure out what would really move the needle for you guys. And we do, I'm just going to flip through these slides. You know, Catherine, looks like you put this back in here. Wait, why did it go? Oh,
I don't know.
okay.
Oh, you jumped.
No, it was this that jumped. So we're just going to flip through this very quickly. You are not supposed to read these slides, so I know you guys got this as a pre-read. This is really just so you are aware again what was in here as we went through methodically and picked the 13 categories, and we identified which topics would be short, medium, and long-term in terms of your commitments, who are the key players, and we've done this for each of the different 13 major categories. So again, some of them have a little bit longer list than others because they were identified as the most salient with this particular group of residents. So just make no mistake that there are certain things you might have to do as the town that are just very important, like water infrastructure, that didn't quite get to the top list. But we do care a lot about green infrastructure, as you'll see on this slide. But don't worry about reading this. Again, we just want to, you can reference this later. This is a great starting point for that new sustainability team that you'll be creating, hopefully, with your support. And they can come to this and start and have a place to start. They don't have to start at square one. We've already done a lot of great work here. So in conclusion, just want to remind you once again, sustainability is happening and it is going to have an impact on how we do things in the future here in West Hartford. Per your own recent resolutions, thank you very much for doing that. We're going to need a team that's dedicated to this, and right now it doesn't really have a home. So we're suggesting the Sustainable West Hartford team that will also help with communication and collaboration between residents and the town. And finally, we cannot get anywhere without you. You are so important. We really need your leadership here. We really need your partnership. Please, 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 please. Don't walk away feeling like you have nothing to do. We really are counting on you. We need you to take this forward from the team and from the town while this new setup is moving forward. So thank you so much for your time, and that is it. And Catherine, you and I were at so we just ended at 6:39 and we started at 6:12.
Yep.
It's like
yeah,
30.
we have to cut it down a little bit.
Yeah.
Then after this one, Julia, I was thinking we should add a slide, or in the beginning when we talk about the SAG, with the names of all the SAG members. We didn't have that.
Oh yeah, that's nice. Okay,
Yeah.
we should do that.
So, and we don't have to read them, obviously. We'll just flash it.
At the end of the
Either.
thank you slide, we could do thank you with all of us. That's
Yeah.
good. All right. So
and Steve, what do you guys think?
yeah, what do you think? I could stop sharing my screen or
of the stuff you went over, I thought it was great. I think it was pretty genius what you put together here. You know, as Catherine knows, one of my pet peeves with the town is communication. And between all these advisory groups, it's a mess. There just is none with anything. And you put it in there to let's revamp all these commissions. We have too many commissions. We need to make them smaller and then maybe have a joint one or something that communicates what each one's doing to each other, so everybody knows what they're doing.
So that's kind of the intent behind the Sustainable West Hartford team.
Yeah, you covered a lot of that. I thought that was a great start to tell the town, like, hey, we really got to revamp communications and these groups here to really understand what we're supposed to be doing, where are our boundaries and stuff.
And I think too that you did a good job of sort of like just breaking it down to the essential, what we're asking leadership to do, and that they need to be involved.
Yeah.
You know, when we first started, that was my concern, was that, you know, we would work on a plan and we'd come up with something good, and then it would just sort of sit on a shelf. I mean, I've seen that, you know, maybe not necessarily in town here, but just, you know, in my line of work, we've seen that for years. So, you know, just to get that ask out there and to, you know, have the work that we've done, it just, yeah, my concern was it's going to fall on deaf ears. And I have a feeling that's probably not going to be the case. I mean, I don't think we'll get everything that we're asking for, but there's a lot of good stuff in there that, you know, can bring us forward.
And Ed, you're bringing up a point that came up yesterday, which was what happens in that interim period, right? Like, how do we make sure that the work that we've done hasn't gone away? So we thought, as a final wrap, is next week or the week after, right after the presentation, we'll have one final meeting with everybody and say, okay, this is how they reacted, this is how they responded, you know, just debrief on how it went. And then we're going to go through that list and see what can be done by residents only, and see if there's anything that, or residents primarily as a first step. So we're going to go take that longer list, and we're going to say, okay, who wants to own these over the next couple of months, so that we don't have to rely on the town to get going on some of those things. So right. Whoever is going to join us on that call, who wants to raise their hand and say, I feel like being the champion for this particular thing, I think that there's no reason, you know, we want to make sure the drumbeat keeps going. We want them to realize that the people on the SAG we're not joking. Like, these are important issues for the town. So hopefully there is a continual drumbeat of residents who want to stay engaged. And yet we also feel like it's appropriate to tell people, you're not under any obligation to continue. We asked you for a 9 to 10 month commitment. You've given us that. And if you have too many things going on in your life and can't continue, that's fair. It's fine, you know? But so we want to give people the chance to wrap it all up, and then if they have a project that falls on that list that they feel like they can start to champion, we can start to move things forward. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea. Give people what do you call it, like you know, the things that we can control, we can, you know, give people the power to take over that. I think that's great. And to have a recap meeting and to sort of put a bow on everything, right? I mean, I sort of just to have that, you know, this is all the work that we've done, we've presented it, and that this was the outcome. I think that's a great idea.
You know, one of the things, and I don't know how much you put emphasis in here. One of the things that drove me nuts was at a town council meeting, couple of town council members says, well, I don't know of any other way to help the environment. I'm like, okay, there's 30 of them, 30 things I can think of top of my head. So you're either playing dumb or you really have no idea what you're doing up there. And so there maybe we want to put a little bit that the council members are participating a little bit so they have an idea of things that are available to them, or places to go to get real information so that they can make some educated decisions before they vote on things.
I mean, that's a good point too. We're hoping that that list at the back has a lot of ideas in there, that some of which are to help spread education and awareness. But the resource page for West Hartford could also be a place where they could go if we, if they're open to that. But I couldn't agree with you more. Like, there's certainly no shame in not knowing all of this. Like, this is an entire industry, right? Like, you and I, Steve, we've been working this every
Yeah,
year.
no.
This is a real field, right? So it's like, it's okay if they don't know everything about it under the sun, but we don't want to make them feel embarrassed about wanting to learn more and making sure that they have the chance to get that knowledge. Yeah, I would agree.
I think it's taking a different step a little bit, where it's almost mandatory for them to come see the main group to say, hey, here's something in front of us. Is there anything out there that you guys know of?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So,
you're right,
Steve,
there is so much stuff, like, don't expect them to be experts at it, but at least come to those who have a good idea about stuff.
Right.
So, Steve, I don't know, Julia, I'm in a car now, but if you can flip back, there is one slide where it does, it's about the commission review and refresh. And we did go through some thoughts where the idea is that, more reliance on commissions can help leadership, achieve their goals. Now, that language was softened in the interest of, not antagonizing some of our, maybe that's the wrong word,
What did we lose her? Catherine, you just stopped talking.
Maybe she's in the car, so maybe she went into a bad cell area.
Yeah.
Can you not hear me?
Now
there you go. You're back.
Sorry. Yeah, someone was calling me and I had to decline it. So, yeah, no, not that slide. The one that talks about refreshing ideas.
Right, page 16.
The thoughts, Julia.
Yeah, page 16.
Ideas, thoughts, that one. So towards the bottom, you can read it off. The right commission model can help leadership and staff. I can't read it.
Accelerate sustainability goals and community engagement.
Yeah. So that language was softened a little bit, Steve.
Yeah,
so that
other stuff in there.
Yeah, that language is softened a little bit to make it more palatable for the committee and less antagonistic. But the idea, I think, is there that they should rely more and ask opinions from from commissions and different stakeholders. If, like, as you said, if they don't know the answers, and there's no shame in that. So that was kind of the message there. And I think a lot of this stuff, this is a lot of stuff to throw at them all at once. And some of it will have to come out in future discussions.
I think this commission review, though, this is just, to me, that's low hanging fruit. This is something that's, if you have a commission that hasn't been revised since 1972, I mean, I think that's
it's pretty obvious we were missing the boat.
Pretty obvious change there.
Yeah. Okay. Do you guys have any other thoughts? Did you feel like you walked away with the top 3 ideas? Are we really getting that down? Like,
I have to say that it was put together very simplistic so that anybody can understand this.
Wonderful.
You're at a much higher level, which I believe is the right way to do this thing. You're not caught in the weeds in the beginning. It's very, it's laid out plain Jane. I think it's great.
Thank you very much. We owe a lot of that to Catherine. She somehow pulled all of this out, and then we've revised the last few weeks. It
should have been at some of our meetings.
The conciseness of the communication, it's really fantastic.
Great.
Any other thoughts or comments that you guys have about things you would make sure, or things you know about these commissioners that you want us to be aware, council members you want us to be aware of?
Or even comments on, you know, things that Julia and I emphasized, or you know, how we talk. Julia, and I'll just start again, and I'm throwing this out there. I think when we get to the first presentation of the 3 foundational ideas,
Mm-hmm.
I think you can spend less time. You spend many minutes just on that one slide. I think if we can shorten that up a little, because each of those comes out again through the discussion and at the end. You know what I'm saying?
This one,
That's
or
just
or this
that
one?
one. Just
That's
a
fine. I
little.
wasn't sure. You told me you had
Yeah.
changed the slide deck, and I didn't read what you changed.
Yeah.
Like, what is
That's
she? Yeah.
That's the one slide where I think we could save a couple of minutes,
Sure.
because a lot of the ideas will surface again as we circle through those 3 ideas, and you revisit them at the end.
Don't worry about
I think, yeah.
What is it when you give a presentation? You tell people what
Tell
they're
them, tell them,
what you're going to tell them, and then you tell them, and then you tell them again, something like that.
We did it.
That's the whole thing. Tell them what you're going to tell them, and tell them again. So yeah.
I would just
hopefully-
add. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Ed.
I was just going to say, like, not necessarily related to the this piece here, but when you were saying that, you know, we should have a wrap-up meeting with the SAG group, maybe at that time, if we want to, you know, highlight some opportunities with the other commissions, or, you know, other places where, you know, they are looking for volunteers, or other places where we can help, that might be
Yeah, Catherine.
something of interest for the members.
Yeah, I think Catherine has a short list of open commission seats. I know some of the commissions have several vacancies.
Yeah. And Julia, how do you feel about how we split it up? Do you want to change any of that?
No.
Or does it work for you? Does it work for you?
Worked for me. Does it work for you guys? Did it make sense? I'm sorry, Catherine. I didn't know. I was having trouble with the PDF. It wasn't advancing the slides. So I kept messing with it.
No worries.
I'm not doing the slides on Thursday. I'm doing this because Catherine's in the car, so we're not going to have the slide difficulties.
Yeah. What do you guys
I
think?
think it's good having two people speak is good.
Okay.
Breaks it up.
Yeah, I wouldn't go more than 2, because then it just adds, adds an unnecessary layer to it.
And Ed, do you think it's okay that I'm doing it, or I know it's like the 11th hour, or should we?
You're doing it.
Should we rope you into doing it? I mean, that's what I'm asking. Is it weird that a staff person is presenting on some of these topics, or is it okay?
I mean, I don't have a problem with it.
Okay.
If you want me to jump in there, I mean, I can. I just I would have to get really familiar with this pretty quickly. The meeting is on the 3rd, right? So that's a couple of days.
Yeah.
As long as, you know, you're a representative of the SAG, and if you feel like it's okay having the staff liaison present part of it, then I'm happy to do it. If you think I did it, if you think I did a good job.
That's what we talked about in the it's one of the recommendations, is to have the commissions broken up into like the internal and the community's parts, right? So I think this is just representative of that, where we have the representative from the SAG committee and we have the internal staff person.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, Catherine, I think from what we talked about before, remember, this is not the town council full meeting, right? So, I mean, the other ideal thing is that they get so excited about this, they ask town council to actually take a look at it. And you have been doing all that legwork in the last several weeks to build relationships with them. So I don't think it's a bad idea to have you be part of the meeting. You've got a lot of the inside knowledge of how the town works that I don't know how to present those slides.
Great, just checking. Okay.
I think,
Question. I have a few comments on the
sure.
action recommendations. Is this where you want to talk about any of that stuff, or no?
We absolutely can. The only thing is this is a PDF and I don't have the PowerPoint one, but the actual recommendations are just a starter list. Nothing's fully baked. They're still being worked on, but what are your thoughts? Are we missing some? Which one do you want to go to? We'll take your comment.
So on,
Finley for
there's two parts on page 25 and 28.
Okay.
Where in the long term, you should adopt a no fossil fuel standard for new construction.
hmm
So my one issue with that is being in the fuel business, that we are going more and more to renewable fuels and deliverable renewable fuels.
hmm
And so if you want to put that in there, you then force everybody to go today to a grid system that's just going to that's all, mostly fossil fuel, and the more you put onto it, the more it goes fossil fuels and coal to keep up the electrical system. We just don't know when that's going to get done, to get fully integrated to 100% renewable electricity, if and when that's going to happen. We just need to have a basket of different types of energy sources. You can't put all your eggs in one basket. Very
Yeah.
simple. So if you leave that in there, you're then saying, okay, you're going to be forced into one place and one place only,
So
and it's not going to accomplish what you're looking to do.
we could make some edits to the way that this is phrased, but also just remember there's no jurisdiction behind this list. So no one's being mandated to do anything. This is it's kind of like a really
Recommendations, but people
Yeah.
sometimes will take it a different way.
yeah, I just want you to know it's not a lot, like we're not, just because it's in here doesn't mean anything's gonna happen, but we can make it some edits to that one. Sure.
Well-
I got that comment in here.
Well,
Yeah.
Julia, I mean, that was a recommendation of the SAG, and I think in that light, it should stay. We lifted all the recommendations off the sheets that people produced. We lifted recommendations out of the Sustainable Connecticut category. And to your point, and Steve, these are recommendations of the SAG, whether they, whether and the recommendation is that list move on and become a starting point for further discussions.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
like a real
and then other people would voice
evaluation.
their opinions that that's not the right recommendation, it should be different. And that's where the reconfiguring of these recommendations would start. But I think at this point in time, what the group was tasked to do is present their own recommendations, and that was one of them.
All right, and the other thing is there's a few spots in here about hiring some employees to do some stuff. I'm a little concerned in that aspect of getting too big of a payroll for the town, when I know we've had discussions about the town's fleet. Many people don't know. I didn't even know this until we were told that, when the town needs another vehicle to drive around or whatever, they go out and buy a used vehicle somewhere. So they don't have any money to go buy a newer, fuel efficient vehicle. And so if you put in too much of a payroll in here and keep adding payroll, that's less money they could use to go buy a new vehicle, a fuel efficiency vehicle or something like that.
I mean, it's a fair point, but it's also this isn't a budget request. There are a list of ideas that we're going to be looking at again, but there's considerable gaps. There's a lot of what happened in a lot of our conversations, Steve, was that people who have been personally working on a lot of projects had no contacts and nowhere to go within the town. They just have no way we have no way to navigate the bureaucracy of the town, and for some of these topics they just don't live. They have there's like nobody is responsible for them. So when we say add staff, the number of staff we're talking about, I don't think it was more than 2, maybe 3 total people. Those people would have core responsibilities to assist with some of the topics that have no home right now within the town. And they weren't even necessarily full-time positions. They're really just like, somebody needs to be assigned to this. And so you could take a current town staff and reassign some of their work if they're room for that to happen. So it's not necessarily we were so obsessed with we have to hire somebody. It's that this is a topic that needs accountability. And we don't have a staff person right now who has, it's like, it's just no one's responsibility to do this stuff. So we are trying to just point that out.
Yeah.
The other,
I like the idea of assigning to somebody versus adding more to the payroll. That's all.
Yeah. Well, again, we're not passing any, but we have no authority with this team. It's like,
but sometimes if it's in there, that's what they say. Okay, well that says that, so let's go hire somebody.
well, and one of the recommendations was to hire an additional planner.
Yes.
Which I believe that they as counselors know they need as well. They adopted a new POCD several years ago, and a lot of the implementation of that POCD relies on planning, and our planning department is very, very short staffed. We have one town planner and one assistant planner, and I think there is a general consensus that there is a shortage of capacity in the planning department, and that came out through our discussions about implementing. Why can't we do this? Well, it's in the POCD. Why isn't it being worked on? Because the planning department is short staffed. So the idea that we need to accelerate some of these things, and one way to do that is add some additional capacity.
Yeah, and this equity officer is already in the works. They're already interviewing for it. That budget was already approved, so that's already happening. But yeah, any other comments that you have about?
No, I think if we get to the basics of realigning and getting better communication, I think a lot of problems where people don't know anything will get resolved. I hope.
Yeah, certainly an option. I think that's the key, is that we've identified really what we've done here is a heavy gap analysis, and we've identified some core areas where somebody should go take another look. And what we didn't have time to do was actually, we're not consultants, we're not paid, we have no access to certain things in town. Like, no one really had the ability to go and look and say, okay, what is the town? We tried to get it out of Matt Hart. What were the town's priorities and how do we align these things? But we don't have like a real material analysis that goes through methodically of these recommendations. Like, this is also a town priority, and it's required. There's some things that are required by law, by the way, Steve, that we're not even in compliance with. So there's certain things that we need to focus on first, and then move on to some of the other ideas. But we really wanted them to realize, to go back to your point you made earlier, you can't just sit around and be like, I don't know, we did all the sustainability things. It's like, no, you didn't. We certainly have not. There's a whole bunch more that Sustainable CT has called for, and there's a whole bunch more on this list that you can pull out of that'll help you get to Sustainable CT's gold, right? Like, we got a lot of ideas. Now it's up to the next group, this next team, to figure out, okay, what's the real priority and what are we going to put, our resources behind? So we haven't made any decisions, of course. This is really just, we were barely getting them to talk about this on social media, right? So you gotta remember what we're asking for. We want them to look at the commissions and start talking about it more, and then help us get this team together so that they can get that real level of scrutinized list that you're talking about, the one that might actually have the chance of getting budget or having an impact on the town. This is kind of like a starter list, if you will. Do either of you have any other questions? Did you want to stay later? We're at 7:03.
I think I'm good. You guys did a great job with this.
Great.
Yeah, this you can see that this was worked on very hard and put together very well. It's one of the from nothing to this in a short period of time.
Yeah,
it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, found a lot of problems, I guess, is what we did. With a lot of ideas for how.
But we're trying to solve them. And thank you to Steve and Ed for your input. And Ed, you were a key part of all this too. I mean, really key part as well.
Absolutely. This group worked really hard. So yeah. Thanks. Okay, well, Catherine, do you want to shut the meeting? You want me to shut the meeting down? How does that work?
I will. You can probably shut it down. Are you a host now? We're out.
I'm a host. I did not record this session, just so you know.
No. We're live stream, so it's
Still live.
it's out there. It says we were still live.
If I stop, do I have to stop the live, or does it do
Actually,
anything?